damn.
Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, it's not like we haven't been talking for the last 20 minutes waiting for the thing to come
Oh,
down.
that's true. Yeah, we always sit down way too early to do this. We're like, wait, we have so much time. We're already hooked up to the mic and everything.
Yeah.
Like, what are we gonna do?
How was your week?
How was my week, honey? How was my week? It was fine.
Something I want to tell you. It's where is it? Here you go. This is for you.
Hey, Queen. Girl, you have done it again. Constantly raising the bar for us all and doing it flawlessly. I'd say I'm surprised, but I know who you are. I've seen it up close and personal. Girl, you make me so proud. And I love you.
That's my favorite part.
Thanks, Michelle.
That it cuts, and I love you. That's my favorite. I love her so much. So that was Michelle Obama, for those of you who have never heard that before. That is, the context of that is her congratulating Beyonce on releasing Homecoming, the live documentary thing that she released, or something like that. Michelle Obama recorded a video sitting in front of a white screen with, like, she's well lit into a very nice camera.
It's bizarre.
Hey, Queen.
Yeah. It's bizarre, but I think it's like one of those things, like when we eventually have holographic mirrors that can I'll just have that video when I'm like getting ready and doing like, hey, Queen.
Hey, Queen.
I love you. And I'm like, I love you too, Michelle. Even though you're the most mediocre, overly celebrated person that I can think of.
Yeah.
So tomorrow is Sean's birthday.
It is.
And if you
is.
don't mind, I want to, before we get into the stories I want to get into, there's a birthday present I want to give you right now.
Is that right?
That's right.
On the show?
Are you ready?
This is so unexpected. I really was not.
So this is for you.
No fucking way. Is that Miss Rachel Dolezal?
Hi, Sean David Castro. This is Rachel Dolezal with a little shout out from Jordan. So I hear that it is your birthday. Happy birthday to you. Stay strong during this COVID pandemic. I hope you have some fun ways to celebrate your big day, even amidst, whatever kind of quarantine type of situation you're experiencing where you live. But nonetheless, celebrate your life, celebrate the goals you've reached thus far, set some new ones for this next year.
She's so thoughtful.
And I hear you like the game Animal Crossing, so you've got to play that, if not on your birthday, soon. And don't forget that race is a social construct. Once again, from Jordan.
Yes!
Happy birthday, my love. Dude, I cannot tell. I've had that for 2 weeks. I cannot tell you how hard it has been for me not to tell, to show you it.
Oh my god.
It took everything in my fucking power. And the best part about it, so the story I want to talk about is this Jessica Krug thing. I got this from her before that story broke.
Oh my god.
Which was crazy to me. So I was concerned because I had this video prepared and she made it for me. But like I was concerned that because she was trending with the Jessica Krug story.
Oh no.
And I was like, oh no, I hope he doesn't ask questions about this and like I'll let something slip or whatever. But happy birthday.
I can't fucking believe it. Don't forget, race is a social construct.
Yeah.
That was the best birthday gift I could ever ask for. That is so good. Thank you.
You're very welcome. You'll have that forever.
Please, yeah, send that to me.
It was interesting because
I need to show that off everywhere.
Because like we'll get into like this whole white women pretending to be not white is such a fascinating thing to me now, and she's never left my zeitgeist. So it's that thing of like, but I love that it almost felt like cosmic, that the sense that this thing became relevant again, because I had I showed the video to like a couple different people, like just because I had to show somebody, you know what I mean? And but people didn't remember who she was.
What?
Yeah, and so I think that this kind of has and I love that she's still doing her hair thing. She's still rocking and rolling. So
how could she possibly give it up?
Yeah, exactly. And I think though what I like about her, or like what I appreciate about her, is that she's embraced the meme. She was fine with me making her say that at the end, that race is a social construct, even though she probably believes it, which is kind of interesting. But she did do a chuckle. Do you notice a chuckle before she says it?
Let's play it back.
Let me grab it again. Let's just play it in its entirety one more time if anyone didn't get to see it.
It's so good.
Because I'm so proud of this.
You should be. That is so funny.
All right, here we go.
It really is just incredible.
Hi, Sean David Castro. This
Her
is
blinks.
Rachel Dolezal with a
Dolezal,
little
excuse
shout
me.
out from Jordan. So I hear that it is your birthday. Happy birthday to you. Stay strong during this COVID pandemic. I hope you have some fun ways to celebrate your big day, even amidst, whatever kind of quarantine type of situation you're experiencing where you live. But nonetheless, celebrate your life, celebrate the goals you've reached thus far, set some new ones
Thank
for this
you.
next year. And I hear you like the game
Animal Crossing.
so you got to play that, if not on your birthday, soon. And don't forget that race is a social construct.
Did you hear
Once
that?
again, from Georgia, that race is a social
Right here.
construct.
Yeah, it's right at the beginning.
If not on your birthday, soon. And don't forget that race is a social construct. Once again.
And don't forget, that is so good.
And we can't forget because Jessica Krug. So
there are white women everywhere reminding us. Before we move on to Jessica Krug, though,
Yep.
I just got to say, Rachel Dolezal has pretended to be a black woman for so long that we should just give it to her.
well, and
You
so actually, I do want to highlight something, and this I think that because I had this video. God damn it, Sean! It was so hard not to spill the beans on
I'm
this
so
one.
proud of you.
And that's kind of why, because I knew I was gonna do. I looked at the date of your birthday. I'm like, fuck, Wednesdays before, and I want to do it on the show. But simultaneously, you have to think. So the difference between these two women, right? So Rachel Dolezal pretended to be a black woman, but she worked for the ACLU. Or no, I'm sorry, not the ACLU.
What is it? NAACP in Spokane.
In Spokane, and really just minded her own biz. She wasn't out there trying to fuck with white people or black people. She was doing work for black people, which kind of makes the story interesting. Jessica Krug, on the other hand, did things like this. This is her testifying or testimony for a New York City city council meeting.
Oh God.
Bombalera. I'm here in El Barrio, East Harlem. You probably know this neighborhood because the Hosanna Melissa Mark Viverito, who used to be the speaker of your city council, sold my fucking neighborhood to developers and gentrifiers. So I got a couple of things to say. And when y'all come on and tell me my time stops, fuck out of here. It's been 7 hours. Not only did I have to listen to these cops, and not just the cops, but to be honest with y'all, city council members, you posing like you opposing them for your sound bites, for your social
my
media.
God.
for
I know,
your
it's so
election campaigns.
embarrassing.
Fuck out of here. You've been supporting the cops in the pandemic when the MTA was strapped and you supported putting more cops on the MTA. Fuck out of here.
If you guys don't already know, this is a white Jewish woman.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
it is. The really frustrating thing is that it's not even a convincing black accent.
No, and so she claimed to be Afro-Latino, which is the new label that everyone's just co-opting, which we'll get into a little bit later about people taking labels that aren't theirs, because
Which is I hate that it has become white Latinos adopting Afro-Latino as their identity.
Right.
Because I myself, I guess I'm no longer a white Latino. I'm just gonna completely abandon that.
Yes, exactly. You are just
That
a
is-
Latino, and you should start talking like her.
Yeah.
Fuck out of here.
Yeah, fuck out of here.
Yeah.
Y'all are strapped. She just sounds like a white person pretending to be black. She doesn't sound like a black person at all.
She
like a
doesn't-
person doing black accent.
She doesn't sound like this.
She should take notes from actual black people,
Right.
but she has never met one in her life.
So there's a few.
You know where you're
There's a few different stories. So by the way, so her name is Jessica Krug, but she went by Jess La Bombalera.
Jess La Bombalera. What the fuck
This is a white
she
lady.
doing?
This is a white lady, but anyway, it's a little more.
coming from, and we know what these little photo opportunity bullshits are. I also want to call out all these white New Yorkers who waited 4 hours with us to be able to speak and that did not yield their time to black and brown indigenous New Yorkers
What
who
the
thought that
fuck?
their sense of, I thought
So what I find fascinating about this story, and there's another one which I'll show you too, is this is somebody who in metropolitan areas is kind of proving that the narrative about minority groups not having status, she's proving that if you adopt that minority status, which we'll get into the interaction we had on the last podcast, will elevate you above every other status, where you can talk like this about yielding your time and I'm making these demands. because I'm not white. And so like everybody who like, because most government is majority white, which is something that we can talk about, rectifying or fixing or whatever. But this person is proving there is status in conversation where everyone has to listen to you, even if you're not actually a minority, which she's
The only
not.
thing that this will do is get more people like her who are white but black in practice.
Right.
They'll get more white people doing that into power rather than actual people of color into power.
Right. And simultaneously, by her acting like this, like who, before they knew that this was a fucking fraud, do you think the white people listening to her talk like this became more or less resentful of minorities?
Way more resentful because of the way... Yeah, of course.
I want to highlight how... And Dolezal's not even in this conversation because, again, she minded her own fucking business and she was helping black people.
Yeah.
This fucking woman, like, in this climate, doing this is I can't think of a worse thing to do. I can't think of a more sociopathic person. And so this only came out because she wrote this apology, but she'd been caught. Like, she was about to get outed by somebody else and just got ahead of it. So it wasn't like she tried to frame it as if she had had this come to Jesus moment and she decided to do the right thing. No, she was about to get fucking outed. So let's do a little more cringe.
Cops was here to protect us, but I guess they're not. Boy, you think that this sort of like shock and empathy thing is the move. Okay, so a couple of things. You was talking about moving against the gang database. What's up with that? Because last I checked, that's still operating. Last I checked, that's still up. You talk about us to show up, been shown up in all these neighborhood council meetings trying to fight gentrification. Ain't nothing changed. And then
oh my God.
And so like actually that's when because I was watching this clip and that's like when I had the gentrification conversation with you about Trader Joe's, of like how Trader Joe's uses the example of like gentrification happening in neighborhoods, and I was trying to say to you of like, is it possible there's benevolent gentrification? Because I would say Trader Joe's is that, where the food's super affordable. They give you super easy recipes to make with their own products. It's not overstocked. They don't waste food. And they hire hire way more people than other stores. They treat them fairly. They pay them well. That's benevolent capitalism is Trader Joe's. But you're the gentrifier, bitch. Like you're beyond. Like there's not even a word for what you are. Like, you are bigger than gentrification. You have literally stolen an identity.
You have colonized.
You've colonized
an identity. To use the language of Antifa, I guess. You've colonized a black identity, because this is showing what you think black people sound like, what you think of black people if you do this.
So she has a fucking doctorate. She's a GW University professor. So I wanted to make sure I had this. I'm surprised I didn't pull up. A George Washington University professor who provoked outrage after admitting that she pretended to be black has quit her job, school officials say Wednesday. Jessica Krug, a 38-year-old African history professor at George Washington University, was pulled from teaching duties amid calls for her to step down that she admitted to lying about her race in a Medium.com blog post. And Medium will come back here in a second. Krug, who was actually white and Jewish, said she had, over the course of her adult life, assumed identities within blackness that she had no right to claim. First North African blackness, then U.S.-rooted blackness, then Caribbean-rooted Bronx blackness.
Which we very much saw in that last video.
I'm not a culture vulture, I'm a culture leech. Yes, you are. George Washington University on Twitter Wednesday said that Krug resigned. But I think that, so she, like, that, this is an indictment of so many different things.
I'm honestly speechless about this.
For one, like, how much of a joke is whatever studies at universities?
Right.
I mean, like, George Washington University is not a fucking. It's not Arizona State. It's not Arizona State. I mean, like, this is
Is George Washington University an HBCU, a honey butter chicken biscuit university?
I don't know what that means.
No, that's a historically black colleges and universities.
Holy fuck, is it?
I forget which of them fall into that.
Let's find out. Holy shit, that would be wild.
Let's see.
She comes up for all of it.
I wonder. I honestly don't think it is, but I know a lot of schools in like the Northeast. Excuse me.
It's in DC. No, it doesn't look like it. No.
Okay, so it's not. But if it was, Jesus Christ.
But it's a fucking huge school, and this just goes to show, like, first off, what I just said, which is that, like, all of the whatever studies, gender studies, race study, like, it's just what do we do? Like, why do these people exist? What education could you get from Jessica Krug that you couldn't get on Wikipedia? I mean, it's ridiculous. Like, with the right amount of curiosity, you could save yourself 120 grand. And so, and what degree could you get from Jessica Krug that would benefit you fiscally in the rest of your life? I mean, it's such a waste of fucking time. So it just goes to show how, number one, scared people are about telling somebody like this, hey, fuck, like, you don't seem black enough to me to be acting like this. Like, there's not enough of a visible minority status for you, like with you. I mean, it's like you would never walk around speaking for Latinos because even though you are Latino, you don't present as such.
Exactly.
I mean, and so, like, you can present as white, like, and so you're
now with my long hair, I look like your fucking rival from Gold and Silver, Pokemon Generation 2.
Do you?
You know, it's Silver with the long fucking
Oh,
red
yeah, that's
hair.
right, that's right, that's
I
right.
totally look like him. My hair's turning into that.
Yes.
I do not look Latino in any way whatsoever.
Right. So, and again, don't...
Sorry to derail.
No, you didn't. Don't let me forget, because I do want to get into the cultivating your audience thing at the tail end of this, so that's where we're gonna head with this. But so if she wasn't enough, there's a fucking another one.
Jesus Christ.
So do you mind reading this? Sorry.
Yeah, when the Jessica Krug story came out yesterday, I was shocked, but not by the extent of her deception. What caught my attention instead were the parallels between her story and that of someone I know. I have long suspected C.V. Vitolo, a PhD student at the University of Wisconsin in Madison, of engaging in the same kind of race-shifting and copious lying that now has people enraged with Krug. I shared this information with the hope that it might prevent CV from causing the same harm and violence Krug enacted on people who trusted her. Sorry, I skipped over those parentheses.
It doesn't matter.
Krug,
I mean, this article's gay because it's like it's this person who was a friend with this, like a friend of this person without questioning anything, and the author of the article is probably black or not white at the very least, and so, like, anyway, sorry, go ahead.
For years, I have doubted my intuition, questioned whether anyone would believe me, and rationalized that CV might, despite all the inconsistencies in their story, somehow be telling the truth. Race, after all, is slippery, and racialization is not just about what is immediately visible, a fact I now believe CV has taken advantage of as they slide themselves further into spaces of black identity and political organizing that do not belong to them.
So, I mean, that's the wild thing. So, like, I had something in the note that said the culture war is going to work itself out. You're watching it in real time because and this will segue me into the interaction we had in our last podcast. Is it's like, if your identity is everything that you are, or your minority status, you need to figure out who you really are. Because, like, I think what was so striking to you and I about the interaction we had with that non-binary person on the last episode was they were telling us, two people who are gay men, being told by a woman in a heterosexual relationship how we should speak. So all the labels that person had, I'm fine saying it now, they don't get to claim any of them. Like, all the labels they have are so slippery through which they get to ingratiate themselves with us and go so far as to think that it's appropriate to dictate what you and I can say as gay men, whether or not we can say gay or faggot. That is ours. It is not even close to being yours.
Yeah, and it's also just invalidating the lived experience, if we want to go back to using progressive language, like the lived experience of the both of us, having grown up gay and coming out at such an early age as we did. These are things that we struggled with our whole lives. And non-binaryism is a relatively recent thing that, you know, at a certain point in your life, if you're deciding, or if you're coming to terms with it at like 30 or 35, it's not something that you were having to hide your whole life because it's not something you were aware of. Or I feel like it's completely different from the binary trans experience where you know that you're in the wrong body, something like that.
So so what's crazy to me is that, like, if you've been listening to us for a while, I mean, one of the biggest reasons why I started this channel was because to shit on just the excesses of gay activism. I mean, that was essentially why I started it. And so, like, to me, the non-binary label I made that point about why I started the channel to say that, like, if I'm insulted, pay attention. The non-binary label offends me because it affords you protections that you don't deserve. Like, I got sent to a Pray Away the Gay camp.
Yeah.
You don't get to tell me I can't say faggot or gay. You don't get to dictate any of that. And, like, that's who you are, these women. Yeah. That's who you are.
This proves that identity and race and whatever gender, it proves that all of those things are now social capital, and they can be transformed into monetary capital if you become a professor of race studies or gender studies at George Washington University.
Emotional capital, which I think is what it is a lot. It is for these people. Like, they are so insecure with who they are, and they found a way to not address it head on, like most humans have to. Where, like, you and I, we knew we were gay when we were 12 years old. And so, like, I don't know, I do know probably what it was for you, so we probably have had this conversation, but when I realized it at 12, was like, it was almost like, okay, well, I've just blown my big toe off. I'm going to have a limp, but I'll be all right, you know? I never hated myself. I just knew that this is a challenge that I now have, and it was finding, like, a non-visible disability was kind of like how I viewed it. And so it's crazy to me because, like, through that time, and also suffering through getting sent to the Pray Away the Gay place, and, like, insane amounts of, like, evangelical therapy, and this just massive amounts of, like, torture I went through, it didn't make me double down and be more of an activist. It made me figure out who the fuck I was aside from this identity that had defined so many things that had shoved me into institutions of suffering because of it. And so I deeply resent people that, non-binary people in particular. Like, it's a serious fucking problem for me of, like, because
uncool non-binary people who
but have you met a cool one? I mean, really?
That's a good question. But, like, people trying to police the lived experience or the way you conduct your life based on an identity that it's odd, because you said emotional capital, and I think it's often a way to manipulate others who have offended you. If you are the person trying to take advantage of emotional capital, you're trying to manipulate them into feeling sorry or bad for an action that they have that they weren't aware they were doing, and that makes you feel good inside. It's like that's psychotic.
It's somebody who, again, hasn't done any interpersonal work, that feels powerless, and they have now taken our identity to wield power oddly against two people that are actually gay, which is crazy to me. And I really hope this person figures out who they are, you know, and I do feel a lot of empathy because like, here's the deal is, you clearly made me mad, but simultaneously it's like, I also feel very sorry for you of, like, Sean and I have dealt with this. We know who we are. You don't. You don't know who you are. And you're 36. So it's time to, like, get out of activist circles that are patting you on the back even though they hate you, which is actually the thing we had in the note was about cultivating an audience. When you make something like we've made here, I say whatever the fuck I want, no matter who it offends, because if it offends somebody and they leave, I don't really want them around anyway, because when you cultivate an audience, I'm going to take, like, that Vaush guy, for example. Yeah. Give him 2 or 3 different things that piss off his monolithic audience that only thinks in one direction, and they will turn on him. Like, if you don't have an audience that has diversity of thought and can weather the storm of being offended, they will cancel you so fucking fast. They will become your enemies overnight.
And the beauty of diversity of thought is that it should also come with diversity of identity. Right. And among each of those diverse identities, like, if we have non-binary listeners, we can have some who are fucking MAGA non-binary people.
Who cares?
We can have, you know, like, super liberal boomers or, like, things like that. That's the beauty of having a diverse audience, which we are very lucky to have, but also very deliberate in cultivating. The beauty is that there are people of all kinds watching your show, and of those kinds, they each have their own thoughts, and that we are not homogenous thinkers, which, in my opinion, is when people say that black people all need to vote for Biden, it's one of the most racist things
Absolutely.
that mainstream people are saying.
Yeah.
Like, and like similar to like gay politics, if they say that gay people should vote for Biden, all of us, like, how dare you say that? That's homophobic. Like, we are not all, again, homogenous thinkers, and that's what's beautiful about having a diverse audience.
I think what's difficult, though, is that, and this is, again, like, why, like, being gay really informed me just becoming politically homeless, because there was such a, especially in 2016, it got ramped up, this pressure of, if you don't vote Democrat, you're Uncle Tom version of a gay person. It's like you like lose the identity.
Yeah.
And so like whatever suffering you went through that would ingratiate yourself into the gay community at large gets negated because you have a different political opinion, which is absolutely fucking insane.
Do you want to talk about Blair White?
Yeah,
in this regard.
Yeah, I think it's important because like DCK sent me this conversation between ContraPoints, who was like a left-leaning trans YouTuber, but she does a very good job of trying to. She writes these scripts. She tries to her videos are very well done, and so like she's never bothered me per se. I don't agree with her takes, but like why would I? But again, it's like she's not so shitty to me that I would turn her off, and I think it's again very important if you're going to do what we're doing now, to watch people you don't agree with.
Yeah.
It's so important. But they made this point in the video, and it's why I don't like that Vaush guy at all, is everything is about creating the ability to formulate a better argument to debate people. Everything's about a fucking debate with him.
Right.
And a debate doesn't change anybody's mind. And so it's like...
It just further entrenches people in their stupid holes.
And because his audience is such a hive mind, they're going to just agree with what he says, and the person who posts the same video on their channel that may be of a different opinion is just going to agree with them. So like nothing's accomplished. But what was so crazy was listening to them both talk about people like Blair White, and ContraPoints she said that it's easier to be someone like Blair White. And to me, that's bullshit. Blair White, like when she went kind of full MAGA, she's kind of corrected course recently. Dude, I'm telling you, as somebody in the alphabet community, it's way harder to be on the right. And the work that she's accomplished by just exposing MAGA people to a trans person that at least doesn't alienate them by how she talks about the world and her opinions is way more valuable than someone like ContraPoints just placating a left-leaning audience that already thinks the way that she does. It doesn't accomplish anything. You have to get over yourself, stop being so sensitive, and talk to people that you don't agree with. Like, and don't go with the intention of changing their mind. Go with just being the best version of yourself. So then they have a better opinion of you and the identity that is attached to you. That's how I have changed so many people's minds that had problems with me being gay. Like super religious people in the South, when I lived there, it was like, you know, they're like, it's sin and you're going to hell. And I'm like, I always made the thing of like, well, if I could change it, don't you think that I would?
Yeah.
If you believe that, you know, and it gave them all pause, all of them pause. And then 3, 4, 5 years down the line, I heard from all of them that are like, we still think it's sin, but we love you and we're sorry we talked to you that way. And I'm like, and the best response I ever got was from a childhood parent of a friend of mine who said, I still think it's sin, but I sin every day. And I go, perfect. That's fine. I can deal with that. That can work with that. People are only hateful and shitty towards you that know you personally if you're being a dick.
Yeah.
And it ruins the goodwill that has been fostered for the last 50 years, which I resent deeply.
Absolutely. Whew. Yeah. I don't know if I have a lot to tack on to that, other than that, like, it is important to have, like, for every ContraPoints, there should be a Blair White.
Of course.
And everything in between as well.
But for every Blair White, there are 50 ContraPoints. And like
exactly
that, and that's the thing. Like again, like why I resented ContraPoints saying that Blair White had it easier is ContraPoints could get a network show. They would love to give her one. Blair White would never get one.
And we were talking about this last night. Blair White isn't even welcomed by like the right-wing media.
No.
They don't want her.
Because they're still...
The left-wing media would never want her, but the right-wing doesn't.
Exactly.
So she's at an impasse, and it is and we were also saying like she's completely alienated the people who were her support group, which are of course these more left-leaning people who are very trans rights activism focused. She's completely been abandoned by those people because her identity no longer matters now that she had expressed some form of MAGA support.
Which shows that the people that are claiming to be your strongest allies don't really care that much about your identity.
Right.
They care about your political ideology. That's what they care about. They care way more about that than your identity, which means ultimately is the people that are saying they're there to protect you the most are the ones that are protecting you the least.
Mm-hmm. To them, we are not gay. We're not welcome as gay people.
Even with like supporting Tulsi Gabbard, that got me a lot of shit.
I know, but it was so lovely to go to her town hall and see so many gay people,
and the
men and
first
women.
guy that asked the question was about the gay thing.
A gay man. He asked about her support of gay people and how since we now trust her, like how can he convince his other friends that she is not a homophobe, that she said stupid things at 20 and now no longer believes those. What can I do to convince other people? And she's just like, show them my voting record.
Right, which is flawless.
Which is all that really matters when she's in office. The things she decides to vote on.
Unlike Joe Biden, which everything that he voted on and the legislation he wrote got us into the mess we're in now. So it's like...
And Tulsi's entire political career is going to look this way.
Mm-hmm.
Joe Biden's political career has been all over the fucking map of him voting against gay stuff, with gay stuff. It's like, pick a fucking lane. But like, how can I trust you if you're not going to?
Right. Steve asks, "Who are you voting for?" I don't think I'm gonna tell anybody. I don't think so. I don't know right now.
I don't either. At this point, I'm not voting for the presidency. If something drastic changes, great.
That's where I sit too. But I think that even if we make a decision, I'm not going to say it on here.
Yeah.
I don't think it's really anybody's business.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like again, like that's the thing with like both of these types of people is it's like, I want to. Again, it would be probably from an audience growth perspective, it would be more expeditious to pick a lane and be like, we're either the burn it down because Bernie should have gotten it channel, or we're the just Hillary horrible, K-Hive shitty, terrible Biden people, or we're like just total MAGA chuds. And so it's like none of those lanes are very attractive to me, but it would grow your audience faster because I think we are naturally kind of good at this, but I think that we would have grown a channel bigger if we had really focused on something. And like if we were like a MAGA channel, then we would like clip everything out. If we were like a Door channel, then we could just talk about like what Biden does wrong all the time. And I just
so now who you're voting for is also social capital,
right?
So if you are, and that applies to both sides, if you're a fucking MAGA supporter, then you're gonna go on a boat parade with hundreds of your friends in Orange County.
Right.
Or if you're like a Biden supporter right now, you're gonna like, I don't know, do online activism,
drink
with your
wine
friends.
and be privileged and tweet. That's pretty much like what
you're
Biden
gonna pretend to be black and become a professor at George
real.
Washington.
Yeah, that's what'll probably end up happening. But I mean that's that. To that person, I'm not mad at you. I mean, that's kind of the crazy thing is like also how offended they were by me saying like you should probably go find somebody else to listen to like, oh, so you're not inclusive.
How dare you say that about all non-binary people?
And then like they were so offended by it after the fact that I actually went back and watched it. I'm like, was I harsh to them? I'm like, no, I just kind of said like we're not really going to be for you. I mean, that's going to be
and that's really fair
because and this is the important thing to close on is like nobody should make a show where the audience dictates the content.
Absolutely.
That is a huge fucking mistake.
Especially in this age, there are thousands of shows to watch that you would like better if they toe the line that you also toe.
Right.
However, that like if you stumble upon this show, you don't have to stay and watch the entire hour.
No. You
can skim through it, or if you hear us say something stupid or bad, you can leave. It's like, it's fine.
Right.
That's numbers, baby. That's the beauty of the rule of numbers or something like that.
So the beauty of the rules of numbers. So happy birthday.
Thank you. I am so happy that we kicked this off with Rachel Dolezal. saying that race is a social construct.
And telling you to play Animal Crossing.
Can I post that to Twitter?
Oh, of course. I actually wondered if
post
you
it.
wanted to. 'Cause I didn't know like if you felt like it was But no, I would love it if you did.
I'm gonna post it tomorrow.
Okay.
On my 23rd birthday.
23.
Nobody likes you when you're 23. So
I
am actually canceling all of my friends so that they can't cancel me first.
Yes.
As soon as I turn 23.
Exactly.
I'm becoming a hermit.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we already
and
we
deleting. I know, deleting all the phone numbers in my phone.
Oh, hello, Tom.
Hi. I feel like we haven't seen some of these people in a while.
Yeah. I think Tom's just not very speedy. So he does. I think he watches all of them, but I think that him getting in on the chat is it's a little too quick.
Or he watches them at a later time.
Mm-hmm. I guess I think he's on East Coast time.
Yeah, it's very, very late. Hey, thank you.
Oh, very nice. Okay, so what the fuck is happening at Fort Hood?
So I think we've actually talked about this before on the podcast.
And actually, I want DCK and Ross to actually pipe in on this because they're both veterans, and it's like 28 people have died in the last year at Fort Hood. What the fuck is going on? And not under very fucking weird circumstances. Like the one that triggered this to come back into the news was a Native American guy that apparently died during PT, which, okay, so it's possible you can go into a coma quickly after being super dehydrated. Like that's possible for that to happen, but it seems unlikely that he wouldn't have been able to be treated in time to at least have him on life support. I mean, it's wild to me. But anyway, I have an article from Fox News. It's not Foxy. It's very again, because if it's talking about the military and it's Fox, there's something fucking wild going on. But what I think is so crazy about Fort Hood is dude, they found buried bodies.
It all started with Vanessa Guillen, who went missing in April.
Right.
They started a search for her body, or a search for her. They found, I think, 2 or 3 other bodies in the search for Vanessa Guillen. One of them they finally confirmed was her. And then they confronted some spec ops dude, and he ended up killing himself.
Wild.
He ran out of the house in his boxers and killed himself.
Yes, with a handgun.
With a handgun.
Yeah.
So something was clearly going on. Since then, they have found 28 total bodies.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and this article's not long, so we'll just go ahead and...
Yeah. House lawmakers launched an investigation into Fort Hood on Tuesday following the deaths of more than 24 soldiers at the base this year. The leaders of 2 House committees sent a letter to Ryan D. McCarthy, Secretary of the Army, requesting documents and information to determine whether the alarming pattern of recent tragedies at Fort Hood, Texas, may be symptomatic of underlying leadership, discipline, and morale deficiencies throughout the chain of command. While the Army has directed an independent review of Fort Hood, the Army has...
Which means nothing's going to happen ever.
The congressional oversight is necessary to determine whether base leadership, by omission or commission, has allowed or enabled a culture to exist that undermines the values and traditions of the U.S. Army, say the chairs of these subcommittees.
Which is exactly what DCK Punk just said. A toxic culture of leadership unaddressed for what seems like years that has festered to this point.
Yep, exactly. Fort Hood did not respond to a request for comment on Tuesday.
Okay.
The letter was sent by 2 House Democrats, Representative Stephen Lynch, the chairman of the Committee on Oversight and Reform Subcommittee on National Security, and Representative Jackie Spire, the chairwoman of the Committee on Armed Services Subcommittee on Military Personnel. Oh yeah, here we go. Fort Hood's problems came under the national microscope in April when 20-year-old Vanessa Guillen, I don't know what SPC actually stands for. Specialist. Vanessa Guillen went missing. Her remains were eventually found in July.
Just right off base, right?
Yes, right off base. And investigators believe she was killed by a fellow soldier at the base. When police officers tried to contact the suspect, Aaron David Robinson, he killed himself. Guillen's family, which has been calling on Congress to launch an investigation for months, says that though she never reported it to her superiors, she experienced sexual harassment before she was killed, which she told her family.
Yeah. So this is the Native American guy that died on the base.
In this file photo provided by U.S. Army is Sergeant Elder Fernandez. Police say a body found near Fort Hood, Texas, is likely that of Fernandez. Temple police said late Tuesday, August 25th, 2020, that identification found with the body indicates that the man may be Fernandez.
Oh no, sorry, this isn't the. I'm sorry, this isn't the Native American guy. This is another fucking one. Oh my god.
It's what? Is this the wrong article?
No, it's the right article, but this is a different guy.
A different guy,
Yeah.
because there are so
many.
many. Fernandez is the third soldier from Fort Hood to go missing in the past year. Another soldier who did report sexual abuse, Sergeant Elder Fernandez, was found dead last month. So he also reported sexual abuse. Very cool. They found Sergeant Elder Fernandez hanging from a tree near the railroad in Texas, away from his house. They don't know what happened, whether it was suicide or whether murder, but I'm going to tell you what they did to him. The blood on their hands, it's a form of murder. In total, 28 soldiers from Fort Hood have died this year. Many were the result of accidents, but multiple deaths are being investigated as homicides. The House Armed Services Committee's Subcommittee on Military Personnel and the House Oversight Committee's Subcommittee on National Security are leading the investigation into the base.
Let's go ahead and finish it.
The lawmakers note that it isn't just homicides that are a problem. Between 2014 and 2019, the Army reported an annual average of 129 felonies at the base, including sexual assault, kidnapping, robbery, and aggravated assault. Earlier this month, the Army announced a leadership change, appointing Major General John B. Richardson IV as Fort Hood's new acting senior commander. The Army also announced that General John Murray, commanding general of the Army Futures Command, will lead a comprehensive investigation into every level of leadership at the base.
Jesus Christ. Do you mind reading DCK's comment here and then down to Ross's to the end?
He wasn't Spec Ops. He was a specialist, which is the rank before sergeant, E4. He was just a scumbag. Fort Hood has been a shithole since I joined in 2005. Georgia is next. And
then Ross says it just seems like Fort Hood has a pretty extensive history of trying to sweep issues away. I don't know too many people who are pumped to go there usually. Yeah, I can imagine. That's fucking scary. And I was also mentioning to you before this that there was, I think, 2 mass shooting incidents at Fort Hood as well, in the last 10 years. Wild. I mean,
there's something seriously fucking sinister going on.
Yeah, and again, it was I remember because Tulsi Gabbard was the one that brought it to my attention first. What's her name? Guillen or
Vanessa Guillen.
Guillen. And she brought that to my attention, and then it was okay, well, someone died here, and I kind of almost would have ignored it, but I'm like, wait a minute, her body was buried off base, and then it was that trickled out into the information. There were several bodies that have been found off base, and you're like, what the fuck is going on here?
I believe they found one that had concrete slabs over it.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, really fucking insane.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't.
What the fuck is happening?
We'll follow this one pretty closely to see kind of what happens. Nothing will happen, but it's an interesting story nonetheless. And it's egregiously omitted from the media. The media's not talking about it at all. Yeah. Left or right. And so something really dark and sinister is going on here
for sure.
And I don't know, I mean, it's probably just the we talked about in the last podcast the culture of internal police stuff, and I think that this obviously it's of no surprise that it would happen internally in the military as well.
Yeah, they're just as sick.
Probably even to a larger degree, but it just hasn't really got a spotlight shown on it. So yeah. Anyway, and also kind of not happy stuff. I found this video on Reddit. It was on Public Freakout, and it highlighted so many things. So this is a brutal. I don't think it's super violent. I don't think it'll get us in any kind of trouble, but it's a police interaction with somebody who is either mentally ill or on a bunch of drugs or both, and kind of showing why police are in bad shape if they're alone, and also don't have the ability to defend themselves. So here's this video. So this is how helpless a cop can become quickly in a situation with somebody who's this messed up.
You want nothing to do with it, I ain't had nothing to do with this shit.
Hey bro, you better just go.
I'm
gone.
You're interfering.
Get on. Hey.
So the cop got taken down easily by this guy who is on, I don't know, it might be PCP, but also definitely some mental health stuff going on for sure. But what's interesting about this video is I want you guys to watch a few things. So clearly this community, which seems to be entirely black, doesn't care that this guy's black and a white cop is interacting with him, They've had enough of this guy. And I want you to watch a guy in a white T-shirt here shortly and what he does. So look how many people are on this guy trying to get him on the ground.
Yeah.
And this is not cops anymore. These are people of this community trying to get this guy on the ground. And he's not a big guy. He's a pretty lanky dude, but he is so out of control that this black guy in the white T-shirt, who's probably like 300 pounds, can't even get this guy on the ground. But when he does, this white T-shirt guy is a fucking legend, and you'll see why. So he finally gets him on the ground, and then the people in the community are so mad at this guy, you'll see what they start to do to him next. But watch what the white T-shirt guy keeps telling them to do, or to stop doing.
Hey, don't hit me, G. Hey, do not hit me. Hey. Fuck all that shit, man.
So white T-shirt guy's got him on the ground. People were coming up, punching and kicking him, and he's saying, please don't hit me, because he's restraining the guy. And you'll see him start to, even though this guy's out of fucking control, he starts to try to protect this guy from getting pummeled by the community who, I don't know what he did. I have no context on this, but they're pissed with him.
Hey. Oh, they stumping his ass. What you mean, nigga? Conscious breathing. People in the parking lot. I feel like I'm kill him. Hey, where that cup is? Right here.
Don't beat that man up now, y'all.
So the cop finally regained himself. He's now going up to the rest of the guy. Thank God for this guy in the white shirt that's restraining him, because I think that he is the only guy who has the size to restrain this guy. And the cop's partner's about to come up, and then watch how this cop will acknowledge really quickly what this guy did for the guy in the white T-shirt did for him.
Going down to the clay. Look at all these people.
Relax. No, relax. Back up. I know. Hey, back up, man. Back up. He's cool.
Do you see that?
Yeah.
Where the partner comes up and doesn't really know what's going on, so he starts to pull the white T-shirt guy off, and then the cop says, no, he's cool, he's been helping. And I don't know, that video struck me. I watched it like several times last night of like, it highlights so many things that people don't really talk about, which is, number one, I want reform. I want it. I think that this guy should have shown up to this knowing that he's going to deal with somebody who could be in this kind of state. And also show up the way that he showed up and not shoot him, which this cop didn't. But by not brandishing a weapon or by not defending himself, he got fucking trounced and was totally fucking vulnerable and helpless. And if it had not been for this giant amount of people that were here for some reason to come in and defend him, he would have been killed for sure by this guy. And this was like just a dark but very cool moment of like watching that big dude take him down and like knew the cop was totally incapacitated. And it didn't become about him being a cop. It was like restraining this person who's completely out of control. And what's crazy is, we watched it, but if you're just listening, like the guy in the white t-shirt probably has about 100 pounds on the guy that he's holding down, and he still can't even restrain him. I mean, whatever he's on or whatever is going on in that guy's head has made him completely out of control and gives you strength that you don't possess without these things going on in your brain. And I think there's like for a lot of people that are calling for police to do certain things or go away or reform, don't understand how humans can be and how and also there's like a big mystery as to like why some people end up dead in these altercations. It's because like if you were not trained, like if you showed up to this and you have no training, which this guy clearly didn't know what he was dealing with. If you show up to a call like this and no one explains to you like who you're about to deal with, this guy that got arrested is lucky he didn't get shot. I mean, for sure. And so for this to get de-escalated to the point to where it's like the cop got taken out, the black community came in and restrained this guy, then the cop de-escalated his partner to acknowledge that this guy saved my life. And I love that it just ends there. Like, there's no more to it, because like I just felt like it was so effective on so many different levels of just pointing out the holes in the way that people are talking about this particular issue. I don't know. I mean, what did you feel about it?
It's hard to stomach videos like this because I never know where they're going to go. And I've seen so many to just be conditioned to think that somebody's going to die.
Right.
So it was nice to see that nobody died.
Yes. And that especially the person, like, and again, like, so many videos that I watch of people getting shot, like, are people who are on drugs. Like, I've done PCP before. I mean, it makes you fucking wild. Like, it puts your strength it's insane. So like, if you have somebody that's already manic plus they take PCP, you end up with that. Or even like this guy it could be amphetamines or crack, like things that like you haven't slept for days and you're in some kind of psychosis. So this guy's acting so erratic that, I mean, it would be his fault to have taken the drug, obviously. But if you know anything about addiction, this isn't his fault. Like, and so I'm glad that he didn't die. He didn't deserve to die for behaving in this way. But simultaneously, this video also highlights how helpless cops are without. We have to find the middle ground here of like, don't shoot them, but also how do you prepare yourself for interacting with a citizen like this?
Yeah.
And he was not prepared. And if he were alone, this guy would have killed him. I really do think so. And it was just, I don't know. And it was cool to see the community step up, and especially White T-shirt guy is a fucking legend.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's the only guy that could have physically restrained him. Like, I don't think anybody else there could have. And to me, he like stands out in this community. Cause like, I think what's also interesting is like, again, like if you want to take like the pro cop side of things, which has a racist bent to it, it's like, you will, like, if it wasn't for White T-shirt guy and they got the guy on the ground and they're all just punching him like they were, it took White T-shirt guy who was black to tell them to stop punching him and literally put his body over him so they wouldn't keep hurting him, and then save the white. I mean, it's just, again, like, this issue is not racial in most ways. Like, statistically, in terms of stops or in terms of bad interactions with the police that end up in death, yes, it is a racial issue. But in terms of how we make progress, we have to look at things like this and be like, this 3-minute clip highlights every fucking problem that has not been solved and won't be solved unless we start talking about it honestly like this. And I don't know, I watched it like 4 or 5 times and was just fascinated with like all the machinations of what was happening in it. So I felt like it was worth sharing.
Yeah, it's very important and pertinent.
But just, I think it's like, again, I mean, we were at the ContraPoints thing. It's relevant in the sense of like, the operative word I think everybody is lacking is empathy, or more specifically compassion for people who think differently than you, that act differently. And what's crazy to me is the most intolerant group are the ones who claim to be the most compassionate.
Yeah, it's interesting. We have a few more things to cover in the note.
Sure.
I don't want to move on too quickly if you want to stay on
that's
this.
fine. I had nowhere to go with that. I just thought it was worth showing.
Yeah, I think it absolutely was. I just want to make sure we get through this because it's in the thumbnail. Well, first of all, we have Biden getting more white affluent voters.
Yes. So it's very interesting. So Biden is losing African-American and Latino support and gaining huge amounts of suburban upper middle class white votes. But Trump now has more Latino and black support than any Republican in modern history. And again, this is just a different version of what happened in 2016. Like, Trump is lying, I'll preface with that, but he's talking to the working class.
He's the only one who's talking to the working class.
Talking to the working class.
Even if they are platitudes, like, even if he says that he's going to bring work back to the U.S., he's not. It's never happening. Hopefully one day it does, but not in our lifetime, I don't think.
Right.
Unless the world ends up fucking collapsing and going off the grid. We have to bring everything back here. But yeah, he's the only one talking to the working class, and Biden, Democrats in general, have not spoken to the working class since 2016. since Bernie did in 2016.
Yep.
It's unbelievable. And of course they've squashed Bernie out of the picture this time around as well. So nobody is doing the work on the Democratic side to talk to the working class and to see what they want and to actually help them.
And Bernie's absolute willingness to bend to getting fucked and just taking the knee has made his argument, it carries no water anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like him saying that Joe is going to be the most progressive president, like, we don't believe you anymore, dude.
No.
We don't believe you because you're part of this establishment that fucking lies, like, all the time. And again, like, Trump lies all the time, but he's somebody who should not have won, that has been president for 3.5 years. People like Biden have been lying for 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, which one is part of a more corrupt system?
We've been watching Legend of Korra,
yes.
and in season 4 it explores exactly this.
Mm-hmm.
Do we want like an outspoken kind of crazed dictator who believes in equality, freedom, and like sustenance for like keeping your people alive? Do we want that, or do we want a puppet king who is controlled by, I don't know,
advisors?
Yeah.
So like, do you want a competent dictator or a puppet king?
Yeah.
That's kind of the big question. And so I don't think either. I think both of them are puppets, but it's like,
Right.
but simultaneously, it's like what irritates me more about Biden is it's like you're voting for Kamala Harris. I mean, the dude is like, he can't go one day if he doesn't take his, Adderall or whatever and doesn't like fuck shit up. So like, or just say the most out there fucking shit.
Yeah. The only one who wants to defund the police is Donald Trump.
What's that?
That's what Gio said. Joe Biden said that yesterday.
The only one who wants to defund the police is Donald Trump, which I know.
What?
Like, I believe he said it. I didn't hear him say that, but he's also said that he is, he's.
If you don't vote for him, you ain't black.
And so much other shit. And then Ross says, which liar can we trust the most? And that's kind of the fucking shit sandwich we've been dealt as voters. Mm-hmm. Because there's no one in that's, it's an integrity vacuum in this election. So and again, people who do have integrity get squashed. And so it's like, look, I'm glad Bernie was as successful as he was and made it as far as he did. But by him not going nuclear, he's really deflated the momentum that he created.
Of course.
Which sucks.
Yeah.
So badly.
I totally agree.
What else we got in there?
I don't know how we're going to transition to Supreme Gentleman.
Is this the last thing we have? Or
we also have the Michelle Obama podcast.
Oh.
There's a new competitor on the block, ladies and gentlemen.
Who
wanted this?
I don't know.
No one asked for this.
Pete Buttigieg started the podcast.
What the fuck are they doing?
I don't know. Like, I can't think of, because you tune into podcasts to hear people talk about things in a way that you may not. You may not. Your own internal monologue, it might be different than that, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know exactly what Michelle Obama is going to say, and you know exactly what Pete Buttigieg is going to say, which is a lot without saying anything.
Yeah, the Platitude podcast.
It's bizarre. So like, but I don't know where it happened. Maybe it's because it's the first lady of the first black president. I don't really know, but she is the least impressive. Like, she doesn't yes queen me in any kind of way. Like, I am immune to whatever charm she is perceived to have.
Yeah.
So I could not imagine turning into 2 hours of her talking about, I don't know, maybe Yanni eggs or something she puts in her pussy. I don't know what the fuck. I mean, what?
Yeah, what the hell does she? Well, she actually, I sent you an article yesterday. She actually said on her podcast that you cannot Tinder your way into a long-term relationship.
Which, again, sit the fuck down. Like, like that is such like a crazy thing to say, because it's like, okay, number one, this has been foisted upon us. Number two, it's been foisted upon us even further because how can we fucking meet anybody right now because of all this shit? And so it's like, what a weird time to say that.
It also erases the gay experience. If you don't want to go to clubs or bars and meet somebody,
it's your only option
in that kind of atmosphere. Dating apps are your only option. I'm not talking about Grindr. I mean like Tinder or Hinge or Bumble.
Right.
These are places where you can go, or apps that you can use so that you don't have to go anywhere. And unfortunately, the only gay spaces are bars and clubs.
And then when you meet somebody there, the only thing you're gonna fuck. I mean, there's not really like an intention of like any kind of relationship being there.
Yeah.
And it's like, as somebody, like, I don't like gay clubs. I don't like going to bars. I like that they exist, but I don't enjoy going to them.
Yeah.
So I've been doing online dating or meeting people online for over a decade.
Yeah.
And have had 3 successful long-term relationships that have lasted like over a couple of years. It's just by just doing it that way. So again, it's a very privileged perspective.
Absolutely.
And very myopic. It's just so stupid. She sucks.
Absolutely. Yeah. Hey, Queen.
But yeah, Supreme Gentleman.
So I don't even know how we're going to get there.
Yeah, so we find Elliot Rodger to be hilarious. Or I do anyway.
He's growing on me.
If you don't know who Elliot Rodger was, he was the guy who went to UCSB. He was the son of some film producer. So he's in Santa Barbara, and he ended up shooting a bunch of people in Isla Vista because he couldn't get laid. So kind of like the OG public incel is kind of who he is.
Yeah,
and
he
then
actually is.
In his manifesto, he called himself the Supreme Gentleman several different times. So we were talking to a friend about this in LA. We went to visit, and I'm like, what if it's the Supreme logo, and then in cursive, it's Gentleman right underneath it? So that's the merch we're going to make.
Yeah, we'll work on it.
Yeah. Because I think that it's one of those things of like only a handful of people will get it. So like you won't wear the shirt and people won't be like, the fuck's wrong with you? It'll be kind of like wait a minute?
Yeah.
And so...
And Joe Biden is the first person we sent a prototype to. That's why he's wearing it in the thumbnail.
I know. Yeah. It's he's the first Supreme Gentleman.
He was honored.
He's Kamala Harris's Supreme Gentleman.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Since she's Madam President of Color.
Madam President of Color. Yeah. Kamala Harris's husband is going to be the second gentleman. Is that what they would call him? Second...
Yeah, I guess so.
Second Supreme Gentleman.
Second Supreme Gentleman. But yeah, that's that. We'll still work on that merch.
But that also implies that Jill Biden would be the first gentleman.
Yeah, I mean,
because there's a second one if
she's the more competent of the two, so I think it's probably fair.
But she would be the first lady. Yeah. Well, then
anyways,
that would either make Kamala Harris's husband the second lady or the first gentleman.
Well, I mean, Kamala Harris is the first gentleman. She hasn't quite become a Supreme Gentleman, but she will someday. And
no, not Kamala, her husband.
Or her husband. Yeah, he's her.
I'm not going to fall into that
nondescript
racist, transphobic trap of calling Kamala Harris a man.
Oh, is that a thing?
Yes.
Oh.
Many people call black women men.
They're scarier than most men, that's for sure.
All right, we should not.
in terms of
this is Jordan's voice, not mine.
Imagine being anywhere in public, right, and making an insane demand, but it's a big black lady that's doing it. She's gonna get what she wants.
It's not scary; it's intimidating.
Well, I mean, pick your word.
There's like and when we say this, we think of like when I say this, I think of like the stereotype of it, which is like the intimidating but like powerful cultural black woman.
I've never seen a fat, irate black woman not get what she wants, ever in my life.
I think
people are just like, oh, fuck it. God, take it. Fine.
It's easier when somebody who is intimidating and also big, since you introduced fat to the conversation.
I mean, there needs to be mass for it to be intimidating.
Oh, yeah. When I worked in customer service, people who were, even though I was behind glass, people who were more physically daunting, I would just, you know what? Take it. Take all of it.
Yeah.
Take the money from the register. I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
It's not my money.
No.
I'm not going to get docked pay for getting robbed.
Yep. So somehow we landed there from Supreme Gentleman. So
I don't like it.
Yeah.
I don't. Was there anything?
Fat black ladies get what they want. That's my point.
And good for them. They should.
Yeah. No. It's maybe it's their form of reparations.
Oh, by the way, we are okay from the fires. We haven't.
Oh yeah.
Been, the skies are gray as fuck all day.
Like orange. Yeah.
They're orangey gray, but we're fine here. The air quality's not great, but what can you do? I have some friends who had to evacuate their place in Oregon.
Yeah, Oregon's bad.
They were posting pictures every hour. It goes from like gray to completely red. Really, really crazy stuff. They're okay, but they have 2 pigs and 2 dogs.
Oh no.
And so they have to find a place that can host all of them plus their farm animals. And where are you going to find a place like that with somebody you don't really know, who's like at least 30 miles away from the fire?
Fortunately, when we had the fires a couple of years ago, the really bad ones, the like Ridge Fire, and the community came together pretty strongly to take care of it. So fingers crossed. But it seems like when there's a catastrophe, there's a good sense of community spirit. So hopefully that comes around.
I also know somebody who got COVID.
That's great. Thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, because that's been the big thing of like we are concerned about it. We don't want to get it, but simultaneously, no one.
Do you know anybody
Right.
who got
So
COVID?
now we do.
Now we do.
Yeah.
And I was saying to you, I was getting so sick of people being like, well, do you even know anybody who got COVID or has it? I'm like,
it's with that
now I
tone though,
fucking
with
do
that
it.
tone, because like, because I've talked about it, just like, do you know? I mean, because I just want to know, you know, I'm curious.
Yeah, genuine questions of people asking if no, I didn't. I know somebody who knows somebody who did, but now I finally know somebody who got it.
Mm-hmm.
And it is embarrassing for that person.
Yes, that's kind of the interesting arc this whole thing's taken of like how embarrassing to get COVID
and to be the one in your friend group,
mm-hmm.
you know, and to maybe like unknowingly spread it. Oh God, it's like getting chlamydia.
It kind of is. It's like or like herpes or warts or something. It's like it's a very similar kind of like. Oh,
and then you have to tell everybody that you have it. Everybody that you've had sex with.
Yep.
With COVID, it's like everybody you've been in contact with.
Right, exactly.
So, luckily I haven't seen this person in like over 2 weeks. But also they got it elsewhere. They didn't get it here.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, Godspeed.
Yeah, Godspeed. That's crazy.
But
that's like crazy.
That's crazy. Is that all we got?
Yeah, I think so.
All right. Well, happy birthday, sweetheart.
Oh, thanks, everybody.
And Rachel Dolezal wishes you a very happy birthday
and
as well.
race is a social construct.
And race is a social construct. And we'll see you all next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday. Goodbye everybody.